Hey, everybody. How are you? I am Julie Murphy, and I am the author of the book, Awaken Your Wealth. I am the money chick, but the money never really actually shows up and is sustainable in your life when we don't work things out and we act it out through our relationships, through our money, through our health. And it's about building our life from the inside out. And so I am not the expert on the relationship piece, which is what we're here for today. But my friend Rita here is the master of awakening your relationships. Rita, tell everybody about yourself.
I'm Rita Hickman, and I'm a body-mind expert and a shiatsu massage. Oh, hang on a second. My mic fell. I'm stepping on myself. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. Now we're good. So I'm Rita Hickman, body-mind expert, shiatsu massage therapist, and I help women figure their way out of narcissistic and toxic relationships by understanding how their body works. And this week we're doing a 7-day challenge for women to get ready for the holidays. And what it is we are using a unique, novel way of healing that's been around in shamanic traditions for a really long time, but it was like secretive and covered in metaphor, and nobody really understood outside, the culture itself. We're starting to understand how healing actually works on a physical level for emotions, for manifesting things, for telepathy, for how we're connected with each other, for our higher self. The science is coming in and people are really understanding how it works. So we're applying those healing philosophies to different areas of your life. And the idea is you only have to watch like one video a day, and then we do any sort of emotion or energy clearing around it. And you do that for 7 days in different areas of your life. And you can't help but grow and change and shift. And then when you've got friends and family who are, and new people and people on the same path, and we're all supporting each other in a big way, you can't help but really make things happen in the relationships you create last for a long time. So thanks for Julie for being a part of our 7-day challenge on our normal Thursday. On our normal Thursday podcast. It turned out perfectly. Well, I mean, I put Thursday as wealth. I wasn't even thinking about that I'd have you on for that day. So this is how the universe works. It's perfect.
Just all aligned in perfect modalities.
I know. I don't question these things anymore. I've become I don't know what the answer is going to be. Yeah, I never know what the answer is going to be, but I'm getting better and better at learning to listen to myself.
I know. It's like, that's what I talk about with it's about building your life from the inside out. But so many of us for so many years have ignored that internal barometer, right? We've thought that someone outside of ourselves had a better answer than what we had for ourselves. And that's just not true. It's just not true. Like, we are following our own guidance and our own intuition, and that is always the next right step for your life, as opposed to folding into the conditioning, folding into other people's belief systems, and folding into how other people want you to show up for them. But the question is really, how are you showing up for you? Because when you do that, then you're teaching other people that it's okay to take themselves into consideration when they're making their own decisions. And not feel guilty about it, right? It's okay when we start other people.
And well, when we start to take care of ourselves, then we actually are getting the things that we need. We are taking care of our needs, and who is most in control of that but us? When we try to look to somebody else to fill that need, even though maybe they should be, or by normal standards, they're the one who's supposed to be your soulmate, who's supposed to be your match, and they aren't doing everything perfectly that you want them to do.
No, even great mirrors.
They are great mirrors as to what we still struggle with, and what parts of us need love, what parts of us need attention. And that's one of the things that's really been missing, I think, in a lot of Western traditional therapies. What's been missing has been the love. Healing was always based,
self-love.
healing was based on the intellect. Right. And what was missing was teaching people how to love and respect themselves, not just talk forever about what their problems are, but what do you actually need to have self-love and self-respect?
Right.
And that's the era we're moving into, is people being able to heal themselves, because now we understand how it works.
Which is also interesting, because that's also how we will no longer be controlled by others. When we actually take our power back and pull it from the inside, then no one else can control us, whether it's a spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, family members, employers, government agencies, the economic crisis. Nothing can control you when you actually take your power back and start to make decisions that create a scenario for yourself where you're more grounded. And because you're standing in your power. I had a vendor that I was working with the other day, and they have yet to deliver on a product that I hired them to create for my online business since March of this year. And the business mistake I made was I paid them every dime, like they required it up front. Well, the problem is then we became last on their to-do list. And everything always got kicked out 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks because of this reason or that reason. And then we go to test the whole thing, and there's all these problems and it doesn't work right. And I said, you know what? How does one then, when you're in these like business relationships, stay in your power? Well, it's about the fact that if you point fingers and blame and get into all that projection and all our suffering cycles, no one ever gets anywhere. Where I don't really, to me, 9 months is way too long to wait for delivery on something, but I want it out, and I want to get out of the patterning that created that in the first place. And it's no different in our personal relationships, right? If somebody doesn't step out of that, which is why, we talked about how, what are some of the out of the box things that we do to help us interrupt those cycles and interrupt those patterns so you're showing up in the world differently, right?
Right. That's what most people are caught in, the idea that they need a doctor or a self-help book to tell them how to fix themselves, and it's not working, and it's not working, and it's not working. Help yourself, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Right. You're only any good if you did it by on your own, by yourself.
Yep.
And we aren't talking about the real crisis, which is we have to start thinking outside of the box, outside of Western medicine, if we're going to start healing. We have to look to other cultures. We have to look to things which seem counterintuitive. Yep. Or which have been unacceptable in the past or frowned upon. Oh. Whereas maybe 150 years ago, 200 years ago, they were just natural parts of the diet, or in a shaman's tool, in a shaman's toolkit. It was just normal if you had emotional challenges to go and see a shaman and work with those medicines and have it work and have it heal.
Yeah,
really work.
I was just in Costa Rica doing some of these shamanic ceremonies. And what was interesting is one of the examples that they gave right at the beginning was, and Rita, this goes right along with the work that you've helped me do on a personal level. And they said when a gazelle is chased by a lion, when they finally shake the lion, but you've got all that fight or flight and all that cortisol and everything shifting through your system, what a gazelle naturally does is the gazelle just like shakes and shakes it off and just keeps shaking until it's shook right out of their system. So they instantaneously, the minute they lose that lion, shake all that trauma off of their nervous system. And the challenge as a human being is when we have a confrontation with something or something happens, we're not sitting there naturally shaking. Now, I learned this because during some of these shamanic ceremonies, I started shaking all the time. And my arm, and I could not control it. I was shaking. And then what I learned, so what started to happen to me in life outside of ceremony was that I would have something happen. All of a sudden I'd start shaking. And it was like, oh, I just had a confrontation with so-and-so. And it's coming off my nervous system now instantaneously without doing the ceremonies. Because I remember you saying to me, Rita, you said to me, I was like, oh my God, because I was actually in the middle of a sexual encounter and I was like shaking profusely. And it was because I went to a completely different place, you know, of healing. And I was letting go of the trauma from sexual experiences before. And it was coming off of my nervous system and it was being replaced with this beautiful experience, not this toxic one. And so it's amazing on how some of these out of the box solutions work so well. And we just have to be open to trying things.
Right, right. And my struggle a lot of my life was, and my therapist, you know, because all of us, by the time we get to this age, if we've had trauma as a child, of course we've had therapy. We probably had it for 10 years.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know? So my psychologist really validated for me my life, which was no one gets to tell you how to heal. You are the only one who gets to decide how you're going to heal. And so most of my life, I felt like I knew what I needed to heal because I had come from sexual trauma. I had come from, you know, emotional abuse. I had come from constant dysregulation and not feeling safe. And so when I started to acknowledge what I needed and stopped trying to be what other people wanted me to be, I could then start to heal. But the challenge is what I needed to heal, or the work I needed to do to heal, in order to put myself out there into the judgmental world, it would re-traumatize me. So you feel like you're living a double life, you know, the life that's inside of you that you're trying to heal, and then the life that you're trying to make for yourself outside of yourself. And so you have to root yourself in your own knowing of what's right for you and what you need to do to heal.
So true.
Regardless of the judgmentalisms. And when you get strong enough, when you move forward enough, then you've got the confidence to be authentic with the world. But in the meantime, you have to shelter that little seedling.
Right.
You have to give it some protection so it can weather the storm. I mean, the reason that I didn't expose, you know, what was going on with me was because I just didn't know any better. I didn't know there was another option besides protect. And so, you know, to do whatever I had to do to protect myself. And
well, it was, go ahead, sorry.
No. And it was just still that fragility of those wounds we have to protect until we're ready to be be who we're supposed to be. Go ahead.
Well, and so going back to, you know, these shamanic ceremonies. So when I went to this one in Costa Rica, when I came home, what it was is my heart was so open. And then I came home to Chicago and it was like, I realized how thick those walls, and I've been doing your work for years, right? So I've been unpacking and releasing my heart space, even to the point that, you know, I had a popped rib earlier this year because the walls are breaking around my heart space because my heart is opening more and more, because as we're moving into this heart-based consciousness, that we're starting to start with our hearts and then add our smarts. Whereas before we've used our ego mind first and foremost and kind of ignored the human heart and our personal desires, like, because for the progress, for the whatever, you know, like block and tackle, that's the old way of doing it. And so it was interesting coming back with this open heart that, you know, the first day I went back to work, like I wound up with this massive migraine by the end of the day. Because it was like, oh, I can't really do this the way. So I spent this entire week recalibrating. How do I, like, now I'm a financial planner. Like, that's a lot of brain work, right? Like, so I was pulling it up. And it's like, oh, but now this is way open. And how do I navigate? And how do I do that? While, you know, the people that I traveled with are in the same boat. So they're navigating their new reality of how to be in the world. Because what it does when you sit through some of these shamanic ceremonies is it raises your energetic vibration and it opens you up back to your original
and that's literal. And
Yeah.
everybody's been learning this in my challenge this week, that's measurable. You know, the vibration that we're at, our brainwave vibrations, they're measurable and they change and they're different. And we can have different vibrations, which are higher, and we can lower the vibrations and we can change them.
Totally.
And when we change them, it changes how we think, and it changes how we feel, and it changes how the world feels to us. So we can actually grow by developing higher levels of vibration, and we can do it physically. Yep. You know, by in training to something that has a vibration, we can do it emotionally, and that triggers our body to, there's so many different ways.
Right.
But this is real. This isn't oh, it's a higher vibration. And no, this is like, no, it's a different brainwave length. Okay.
Totally.
Let me put the electrode on your head. Right. And it'll show you. And then now you tell me how you feel and what's the experience. Oh, it's transcendence. How interesting. Oh, it's compassion. Would you look at that? I can see compassion. Let me take a little, measure out here. Oh, I can feel compassion coming off of you. Isn't that great? I can measure it 5 feet away from you. This is what's happening. This is the change.
Well, and what happens in these ceremonies is that so as we age and as we grow, our brain actually creates more grooves, right? Because those are the neural pathways of your experiences, which is why the older we get, the harder it is to change something, because that groove gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And so what happens in a lot of these healing modalities that are from a lot of indigenous tribes around the world, whether it's from, Peru, Brazil, even the Hopi Indians here in the United States, when you do these ceremonies, it actually erases the old grooves. So you have this sense of freedom. That's what opens you up. And then new neural pathways then can begin in terms of where you want to move your life next. So many people have had big parts of their lives just blow up lately, whether it's health crises or it's relationship crises or even financial crises. So on an individual level, on a soul level, not a conscious level, I'm not saying anybody intentionally, consciously chooses any of these crises, but on a soul level, if you have chosen not to shift with all the other warning signs that you have gotten over the years, the crisis comes in to shift you. And so if you're having challenges, those of you guys who are watching, if you're having challenges and you want to know what some of these things are, just, you can Google shamanic, retreats and things of that nature. Rita and I both know people that do this type of work, and happy to refer you out to people to help you on your journey, because, you just have to know that you're drawn to it, and you may not necessarily know exactly why, but you'll know that going, like I have clients come to me and they say, Jewel, I've tried everything. I have this one client who always refers me. She says to people, I know you have a financial planner, but you don't have one like this. Like, she's just different. Why? Because I have this toolbox of people like Rita on relationships and healers, energy healers, and Sedona. I have 3 levels of strategic alliances, I call. There's the normal ones. I have my CPAs, my attorneys, and then I have my mortgage brokers. And then there's the ones I call the tweeners, the ones in between. Those are the ones that are like fitness experts, nutrition experts, family counselors, and therapists. Then I have what I call my esoteric line. And those are all the people that work in the energy sector, and they work on your subconscious mind. And depending on wherever your belief system is, I have the things that are like, okay, you're kind of in your infancy stages, so I kind of got to give you the rope a little bit slower. So I have these ones to introduce you so you can start in your belief system to understand that we are all energy. And if you don't shift your energy, your money's not going to change, your relationships aren't going to change, and your health is not going to change. You've got to shift it on the energetic level. And so that's why I have this whole toolbox of strategic partnerships of people that can help people work on that subconscious mind that is fully developed by the time we're 7 years old. And that's how we respond to the world, and it's so important. So if you're drawn to stuff like that, know that there is a community of people like Rita and I that are here to help you on this journey, because it's time for us all to be happy. It's time for us all to live exactly the lives that we want to live. No more pussyfooting around. No more. No more. It's time to giggle all the time.
Right. You know, it was so yesterday we had health, and oh, we had your friend Alice on. Alice was on, and she did gut health, and we had the most amazing conversation.
She's amazing, isn't she?
Oh, wow. Wow. We had a great conversation. And so someone in the group wanted to know what a comfortable, you know, what a healthy digestive system would look like. You know, and she described things like it doesn't look like rabbit pellets, you know, stuff like that. And then she ended with, and then you should leave the bathroom with a smile. So, you know, we're trying to find ways to make every corner of our life something we want to smile about, even if it's tough, because we always have that choice, right? Yep. We have the choice to focus on the things that aren't working, or we have the choice to focus on the things that are, and then decide what path you want to take.
Yep. That's so true. It's such a true statement. It's like, how do we get there? How do we, you know, get to that place? It's so important. And,
and you know outside the box, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, it's about loving yourself enough. You know, like, I finally broke down and bought a Peloton. Why? Because I'm a mom of 4 kids who are 4, 7, 9, and 11 years old. And 50% of the school year so far, I have been a school home teacher and a business owner at the same time. And the gyms keep opening and closing and opening and closing. And I don't like wearing a mask when I'm working out. So I bought a Peloton. I chalked it up. And I have to tell you, every day that I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. But then I ask myself the question, what is the most self-loving thing? And what I love about the Peloton is the fact that if I'm having a rough day, you know what, I'm going to take a yoga class and like a core strengthening class, and I'm going to forego the running because I'm just having a rough day. But I can do yoga on a rough day, you know, but I'm making sure I'm at least doing the running 4 days a week, but I'm getting it in 6, 7 days a week because it's 20 feet from me right now. And I don't have a commute. I'm like going, gosh, that was the commute to go to the yoga studio before. Like, I'm just using my commute time. So I'm gaining time and I'm doing more self-love. Beautiful.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. And the problems that happen is from our subconscious, we all have those memories, you know, around exercise or around meal planning or around playing. You know, many women come in with these unconscious, women and men, of course, everybody, with this subconscious and unconscious beliefs that they just don't want to look at. And so they can get the Peloton and then ignore it and deny that they have it.
Right.
And then be angry and upset. But the key is you get the Peloton and then you do things to clear the emotional memories and the emotional energy around it that keep you from using it. And so then when you get that out of the way, you're able to do it and you're looking forward to it and you recognize that it's of great value and it becomes a wonderful asset in your life instead of something you feel guilty and ashamed about.
Well, and so pain in the body often represents unprocessed emotions. And I know in the financial field, when somebody actually comes into my office and they're talking about lower back issues, or they sit in the chair weird, and I'm always like, because physical signs in the body always tell me something about somebody's money situation. So lower back issues always tells me that they have debt of some kind that's weighing them down and it's not in alignment with who they are. So it might be that
is it not just money debt, or can it be like karmic debt or emotional debt or guilt?
Usually they're fiscally screwed up somewhere when it's lower back pain. That's usual. Could it be those other things in addition to that? Yes, but where it's acting its way out is in the debt. So it might be a karmic debt, but it's showing up as actual financial debt in this lifetime, right? That's how it's acting its way out and working its way out. And so I always know what questions to ask to start to unpack what is stuffed in that lower back down there. You know, and it's like, okay, come on, let's unpack that. And I'll just ask questions. And it's so funny because there's always like, if there's a couple, I always notice that one of them's got the lower back pain and the other one's like going, I'm fine. You know, like I cannot tell you how many times I have a couple and one of them like sends me a little like voicemail or something like that. And they said, you know, and it's never the one with the back pain. I didn't really want to mention this because I know they're having a hard time. My partner's having a hard time with this, but I've got like $30,000 of debt that they don't know about. And because it's already physiologically showing up in their partner that they don't want to tell them about the other stuff. And then it acts out to a whole other different level, right? And then it affects their relationship. Like, see, it's all intertwined. And, you know, so I always know that I'm like, okay, so how would you like to bring it to your partner? And they're like, I don't, that's why I haven't. I'm like, no. See, that's part of the healing process is you got to own your reality. Like the second step in my process that I work with clients through is that you have to accept the reality that you've created. And I talk about this in my book, Awaken Your Wealth, of how do we go through these steps? You know, we first have to dream the dream. Then we have to accept the reality we've created and wake ourselves back up and be authentic in the world. Let your freak flag fly. And then we have to choose to change. And most financial planners, all they do is they say to people going, okay, this is how we implement and take action and the products I can sell you. And that's the biggest disconnect in my industry is that we're forgetting the first 3 steps to help people through dreaming the new dream, accept the reality that you've created, wake yourself back up again at that same time you're accepting your reality, because reality is not necessarily always in alignment with who you authentically are when I meet people. They're usually off. And then make the decision to change. And it's so important, you know, and what we have to realize is that as we unpack each one of these layers, then the money shows up as the result of it all. The good health shows up as the result of it. The healthy relationships show up because we're pulling it from the inside out. And if it hasn't worked for you and you keep running on the treadmill, it's because you're doing it from the outside in, not from the inside out. And that may sound esoteric to you, you know, as you're listening to me say those words, but keep coming back and listening to Rita and to myself, because all of a sudden light bulbs are going to start going off because you're just kind of like going, okay, I kind of understand that. But I don't really understand it because I haven't been living that way. And so it's about over time, you can then sit there and embody it to a deeper level. And you keep moving it to that next right step. It's good stuff.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant advice, because most people, you know, at least most of the women that I work with, the hardest part is convincing them that the process is going to work and they need to stick with it, because growth is, you know, little bit, and then suddenly it's exponential.
Right. It is. And then you can, when you start to experience the exponential, what then starts to happen is like, whoa, this is kind of what I asked for. Like in my relationship with my ex-husband, it has been tumultuous beyond tumultuous. Like, to kind of frame that for people who are watching for the first time, I spent $600,000 in 11 months trying to divorce him for all kinds of reasons. All I kept doing was setting the intention was that I want the highest and best for me, him, and our kids. And I didn't realize how that package would show up, but we had an experience on a family level that jarred him to his core, which also happened you know, the divorce kept going and going and going, and he kept hiring more forensic auditors and teams of attorneys for my kids and all this stuff. And I one day just finally said a prayer. I was like, God, this has to stop. I don't know what you have to do to make this stop. But my prayer was, I can't do this anymore. I'm done being beat up. I'm done. Do you know the next day his mother dropped dead? No joke. The next day. And it jarred him. This crisis in his life showed up. They don't even know to this day why his mom passed away. It jarred him to his core. And all I did is I showed up with my kids because he was having anxiety attacks about his mom passing. And I just made sure the kids were dressed. They were there at the times he wanted them. I showed up. He asked me to stay at the funeral luncheon so I could manage them through that, everything, while he was experiencing this crisis in his life. And I did. And he walked me out to the car after the funeral luncheon. He said to me, how am I going to keep going after you the way I have been when you were just so nice to me when my mom died? And I said to him, maybe you're not supposed to. 2 days later, he comes over and he says, I want this. He gave me all of his 5 demands and he goes, give me all these things. Our divorce is over. I said, fine. None of those things were logical. They didn't fit. They were out of the box. And my attorney told me I was crazy. But I was setting the intention that I wanted it done. Done. Because I wanted to move out of the energy of the fight. And I wanted us all to start to heal. And I kept holding that. And Rita, you know, because I met you post-divorce. And then what started to happen is like, it didn't get really better. Like it was still like attack mode, pick the topic, right? It was like, okay, so the formal piece of paper was in, but then the attack kept happening. We were not figuring out co-parenting. And then we had another experience in August of this year where something happened with one of our kids. And again, it was a crisis again that jarred him to his core. And then all of a sudden now we've had the most beautiful co-parenting, which is kind of like, so when you ask for it and it shows up, you almost don't even know how to act because you're like, I keep setting the intention. I want the highest and best for him, regardless of everything, the highest and best for me, because I can't be forgotten along the way because I'm important too, and the highest and best for our kids. And it has been mapping out beautifully. And I could never have expected it to show up in the package that it's shown up in. It's kind of been a little out of the box and very weird. But all I kept doing all along the way was working on me and doing these out of the box healing modalities because what I had always done wasn't working. And my stuff wasn't acting out in the money stuff because I'm the money chick. Mine was acting out in my relationships. And sometimes it's both. I guess you could say mine was acting out in the money front because I spent 600 grand in 11 months having a divorce. I suppose that's some money working its way out. But it's okay. Like, so when it does start to show up for people, breathe into that what you called in actually is happening because sometimes we're so uncomfortable with it actually being the way that we want that we sabotage. And we sabotage by like spending a bunch of money on credit cards. We sabotage by buying the bigger house or doing the big remodel. And we just spent all this money that you'll have a spending hangover, you know, down the road. And none of us want that. None of us want that. But this is how our subconscious mind can get the best of us. So it's about making conscious decisions all along the way that align with those dreams, that align with what you really, really, truly desire on the inside. At this season of life. Not last season, this season. Not tomorrow's season, this season. You know, I think it's so important. You know, I went off on a bit of a tangent there.
No, I love it. That's exactly the tangent we were supposed to have. Well, more people are thinking in a different way. And that's good. You know, the crisis, you know, was the pandemic for the world.
Right.
And a lot of people realized, especially after all the fighting and the anger that people had, that they didn't want to live like that anymore. And so that was the shock for a lot of people, to start thinking differently.
Right.
So as a planet, we're all moving towards, every single organism moves towards wanting to stay in harmony the majority of the time. It's 80% parasympathetic, 20% sympathetic. That's the amount of time we're supposed to be in health, 80%, and in, you know, danger, the lion's chasing me, maybe 20%.
Yeah.
And so we're all moving towards that. We want to. The body does not like being out of harmony for very long. And so the whole planet, because of the suffering that they're in, we want to move towards something better. It's natural.
Right.
It's not that sometimes the angel wins and sometimes the devil wins and nothing ever changes and there you're at. You know,
Right.
It's, we're all craving and striving towards a better world, towards feeling peace and harmony. Your ex-husband didn't want to be fighting with you.
No. He was just in his, what did you call it? The parasympathetic nervous system? Because he had no idea on how life was going to be post-divorce. So he was in his fight or flight. And I just knew I wasn't supposed to fight anymore. And so I was the one directing the energy to no more fighting. No more fighting. I'm done. No more fighting.
Mm-hmm. Someone has to surrender. Yep.
Not easy.
You have to surrender.
Because trust me, you know, even like I was talking about that business deal that I had this past week. I was like, I don't want to point fingers anymore. I don't want to blame anymore. I'm done. Like, I just want this funnel to be out in the world because I'm giving my book away for free. And I want it to get out to the world because I know it will help millions and millions of people. And it's interesting to me how, you know, on one level, I have to trust the divine timing on things, right? Whether it be my relationship with my ex-husband or my book funnel coming out. And the same token,
good orderly direction. It's another acronym for God. Good orderly direction.
Oh, I like that. You guys got to write that down. I like that. Good orderly.
I get my super secret, you know, cool ways of saying things from the people in my life that are always thinking outside the box. So I look a lot more innovative and creative than I am.
I think you are, though. You are such a creative soul. Like, who thinks of putting all this stuff together of how our relationships are, you know, that what we're experiencing is sticking into our systems on a cellular level, and that we don't even realize that that is what is going on. You know, and I was reminded of that when I was on the Peloton yesterday, the instructor that was on there, and she goes, feeling that pain in those hips? And I'm like screaming at the screen. I'm like, yes, I feel that pain. And she goes, yeah, that's just a label you've given it to. It's actually not pain. So I need you to flip that story, because what it is you need to just keep running through that pain that you've called pain, because it's just energy of all your unprocessed emotions of what you have going on in your past. There's actually
not. Wow. It's like the universe was pointing at you through that and saying, Julie, I mean, yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going. Wait, the sun is coming in today on me, isn't it? I'm like, this is a sun direction. Normally I don't have.
You look angelic.
Do I look angelic?
Oh. You look angelic. Funny. So the universe was talking to you yesterday, which is another outside the box sort of thinking.
Right.
Is that there are, we've been on the challenge, one of my personal psychic, her name's Jenny. She lives in a gingerbread house in the woods, and she's very practical. You know, her psychic abilities kind of passed down through her family. And she was on yesterday or the other day, and we were talking about ancestors and other levels of consciousness, and how those things like the Peloton talking to you,
right?
You know, a higher level of consciousness that's talking to you in a way that's obvious and hopefully in your face. Here's the message you need.
Well, and
My friend Jenny,
think about the things that had to happen for that to occur. I first of all, I had to decide that I was going to do the Peloton that day. Second, I have all these instructors I can choose classes from, and this particular one just jumped off the page, and so I clicked that one, and then here the message, she says it literally when I'm having a hard time pulling my right leg forward. And it's like, and I'm going, maybe it's not a good idea for me to actually work out today because I've been doing it 5 days in a row. And I'm like, yeah, no. So I just moved through it, and I just kept it moving. And it's funny, my right leg doesn't hurt at all today. So whatever that was, it moved through and there's nothing there. It's really interesting to me. But I want us to notice, those of you who are listening, notice how your brain screws with you, right? That I could have easily have listened to that inner dialogue and gone, yeah, you know what? I got to take it easy and not move through whatever that was because I don't want to hurt myself. Because trust me, I wasn't working out that hard. I wasn't running 7.5 on the treadmill. It's not like it was that hard. I was at the lower end of the range that she was talking about, because I'm overweight, so it's like, okay. So it just, we have to realize how our brains, as much as our brains can be our detriment and screw with us and keep us where we're at, our brains can also be the thing that gives us the tenacity and the mental toughness to get to that next place. The question is which side are you going to use? Right? So for me, I got to tell you, the last 4 years of my life, outside of these last 6 to 8 weeks with my ex-husband, have been pure hell. Pure hell on a relationship front. I can't even believe that the things that have happened. I don't even want to verbalize them anymore because I don't want to give it energy. But gosh, thank God for this strong mind and this strong brain that I have, because I just kept going in my meditations. I want the highest and best for him, me, and my kids. And I'm paying him while he gets on his feet financially, and I'm working hard to do that. And you know what? It's okay because I know everything, because I'm doing the right next step. Everything will fall into alignment. The universe, I am being who I am vibrationally, and the universe is going to provide everything. I know it is. It always has. The money shows up as the result of everything else. So even though I spent $600,000 on my divorce and my net worth is a third of what it was 4 years ago, because I had to give half of the net to him afterwards, it's okay. Because I know vibrationally, I keep raising my vibration, which means more abundance comes to you, more opportunities come to you. My business has a 300% increase in net income from 4 years ago in an economic crisis time period. The only reason that's happening is because the universe is bringing me more clients. The universe brought me more financial planners to work under my corporation, and everything is expanding and growing, even though it leaked out somewhere else. So this is how we have to understand how we're interfacing here, and how the money is just a result of all of that. And when you follow your heart and your soul, because I know I'm doing my soul work in the world. I know I am. And so everything shows up. Everything. And you have to trust that. Just like when, I was raised Irish Catholic. There's no way
Me too.
I was ever thinking I was going to go to shamanic healing things.
Right. Right. Because I was going to go to hell. I bucked the church. Yeah, I bucked the church when I got married outside.
Right. Right. It's really interesting. I just find it so interesting.
A lot of Catholic guilt we carry from generations. And many people are working on generational traumas right now. There were finally, you know, I was going to ask that, I was going to say how you were talking about your relationships had been hell up until that point when it shifted. It's almost like you can't acknowledge how bad something is until you're on the other side of it.
Yeah.
You know, only then is it safe enough to be able to say something, you know, to acknowledge the reality of what you were going through. And so
Totally.
People are getting, at least in many parts of the world, enough time to nourish themselves with the things that help them grow: good food, exercise, music, art, family, community, a passion, that they're able to look back on these generational traumas, and it's finally safe enough for them to acknowledge and heal the things that might have happened 2, 3, 4 generations ago. And only now do we have the inner resources and the outer resources and the thinking, because we've changed, the world has changed to a little more heart-based thinking. Now we're able to start healing those, and it's coming up, and it comes up in big, scary ways.
It really does. Right. But we have to understand that our response to those big, scary ways makes all the difference in the world. Because it's not that they're not going to come up. You know, it's interesting. You know, I had, you know, my ex-husband and we really approach the pandemic very differently. Very differently. Like, I've been on an airplane to 8 different cities and 1 other country since this whole thing started, since May, because I'm a Sagittarius. I've got to go. I've got to expand. I've got to flap these wings. You know, that's just who I am. And I'm like, well, the airports are empty. It cost me $100 to fly somewhere. Why not go explore the world while everybody else is sitting at home choosing to respond to it differently? And we had a conflict because over the holiday break, I'm going to take my kids on an airplane and I'm going to take them somewhere. And I told him, I said, well, you have to decide if your concerns and your fears are worth you paying more money to an attorney to try to fight me and stop me. I said, I don't think we're in that space anymore, but you've got to allow me to be the mom. And it's not that I'm not going to be smart. It's not that I'm not going to do the right thing for my kids, but I'm just approaching it differently than how he would like to approach it. And so we have to just understand that that's where, like you were talking about earlier, like having compassion and love. Like, I watched my 5-year-old this morning say, Mom, Mary-Kate is just not being nice. That's his 7-year-old sister. He goes, so I just decided to hold space and give her some love. This is my 5-year-old saying this to my 7-year-old.
The next leader.
I'm like,
yep, the next leader of the world.
It's sinking in. It's sinking in. It's beautiful.
Yes.
And
yes.
So just know that you just have to follow your heart, and just know that that is your internal barometer. It's your internal guidance system. And it's super important to make sure you just keep that in alignment.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Because you matter, you know?
And the only way to bring things into alignment is when we take that time to give ourselves what we need. You know, you were saying earlier that we look to everybody else to meet our needs, and then we get frustrated or angry because it reminds us of another time when we weren't able to meet our needs. You know, when we were small, we weren't able to meet these needs. And if those needs didn't get met, even though we become an adult, we still go back to that fear, and it still hijacks us and puts us back into that place, and we can't even stop it.
That's so true.
So whenever something comes up, it's your little, it's that little person inside of you saying, hey, I need a little bit of attention. Please give it to me. Could you take a bath? Yeah. Or could you go for a walk? Could you call a friend? And you're supposed to do that. You're not supposed to put the things which are good for your health, even though I do all the time, since we all struggle with everything.
Right.
But we're not supposed to put ourselves last.
No, we're not. It's like it's the whole oxygen mask in an airplane, right? Put yours on first, and if you have a kid with you, then put theirs on. Because you're no good to anyone if you kill yourself in the process. You're no good to anybody. Right. But there's so many systems, particularly religious systems, that are set up that you're supposed to take care of everybody else before you take care of yourself. And no, you're part of that self-care package. You are part of it because you matter. And that is so important. You know?
Yeah.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
Great stuff.
I just want to encourage people that if you want some more help, come to my website, juliemurphy.com. If you sign up for my newsletter, you'll know when I'm giving my book away for free here in the next couple weeks. As soon as we get this funnel all taken care of, get the electronic glitches out of it. And we're here to help. And join us next Thursday for our Awakening series on Awaken Your Relationships. We're here at 9 o'clock every Thursday, except for when I'm out of town or if Rita's out of town. So Rita, tell everybody, I'd love for them to hear how they can reach you, because you've really helped me move my relationship stuff to just a higher consciousness and a higher level, and really move that stuff out of my physical body.
Well, you can find me at �ＲitaHickmanCoaching.com, or you can also find me on Facebook. If you just type in Rita Hickman or Rita Awaken Hickman, I'll pop up in a bunch of different ways. And this week we're doing the 7-day challenge, which is designed to help people take small steps in their life, like really take them, because they aren't afraid to take them or anxious to take them. And when you do that in multiple areas, you grow really fast. You change things, as Julie can attest to, you change really fast when you have it from different dimensions. So we're going to be doing this same challenge the first week in January to launch a 7-week program, which is based on this process, based on this idea of you only need to make 1% change in many areas of your life to create big change in your life, whether it's around toxic relationships you're in, or whether it's around your healing from cancer or some other illness. So look for me and look for the challenge, because it's a pretty rock solid way to create change in the easiest way I know how. Now, Julie, everybody for the challenge, all the coaches for the challenge are giving something to excite everybody to engage with one another. So at the end of every day, we've got the top 3 engagers so that we make sure we support one another. And the top 3 engagers get to pick something from this prize page. So is there something that you might have that you could put on the prize page that would excite women to make sure they keep supporting themselves and each other?
Well, certainly, I can, I have a mini version of my Awaken Your Wealth. Actually, no. What I want to do is I have an e-version of my first book, Emotion Behind Money. That is, I have an e-version of, it's the light book. It's kind of like a synopsis. So that can certainly help people.
That's, what's it called again? Emotion Beyond Money?
Behind Money.
Emotion Behind Money. Excellent. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Because the women have just been, what a great community that's come together. And they're really being open and vulnerable. It's super exciting. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think that's it for today. Thanks everybody for the challenge. And thank you, Julie, for hosting.
Yeah. And you guys just love your journey along the way, because you deserve it.
Yes, absolutely. And we're here to help. Okay, have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.